Welcome to the Connection Podcast. I am Lauren Dry, also known as the Connection Catalyst. Connection and this podcast for me is personal. As a driven professional, I found myself an expert in all things work and business, but it was at home that I really needed clarity and ease. After finally finding it one marriage breakdown and one marriage reset later, and finally discovering what really works to have connection in modern relationships, using science, simplicity, and soul, our signature program, Rise into Regulation, was born. That's giving so many others in modern, driven relationships back clarity and ease for good. On the podcast today, we're going to dive deep together on all things relationships, business, identity, and leadership. And clarity and ease is at the heart of it all. And we are so happy to be with you so that you can have what you need in connection, mind, body, and soul too. Hi, and welcome back to the podcast. I am really excited about today's episode. Today, we're going to dive into why we wait for catastrophe to happen or life to sideswipe us before we give ourselves permission to become who we already knew we needed to be. I'm so excited to welcome on the podcast today, Jeff Luther. Now, Jeff is an entrepreneur, a speaker, and a coach, and a father of three, who's based in South Carolina in the States. As well as being a successful business owner and entrepreneur, he also runs a coaching and speaking business under the brand All Can, No Can't. In 2022, he collapsed at a CrossFit gym in front of his teenage son and had no pulse for 8 minutes, and he was revived with an AED. He was then diagnosed with ARVC, a rare genetic heart condition that ended his ability to exercise at the intensity that he built an identity around. He also went through divorce, which he describes as less about losing the person and more about grieving the future that he thought he would have. And both experiences now form the core of his speaking and coaching work. He also hosts his own podcast called All Can, No Can't. And I am so excited to welcome Jeff to the Connection podcast today.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I appreciate it. I'm super excited to talk to you. A lot of times when you come on these shows, like there's all these rules and everything set up and we go through questions and then we get to know each other and then you hit record. You've done the opposite of that. So I love the authenticity.
Authenticity is one of our favorite words on the Connection podcast. So I really appreciate that. That's one of the things that you're picking up on straight away. There's so much that I'm fascinated about your story and that I've been so excited to share with the audience. And one of those curiosities that I have is this sensation and this feeling and this life trap that we can all get stuck into without really realizing of the freeze response, the stuck response, and feeling like we're at the mercy of the situations around us. And interestingly, it so often takes a catastrophe before we feel like we can make big decisions, big moves, and give ourselves the permission to live the life that we need to. So I'm curious, why do you think so many successful men wait until everything starts to fall apart before they start to change?
I don't think that we wait. I don't think anyone is sitting and going, okay, well, I'm going to wait until I have a catastrophe to really do this thing. I think what men in general have a tendency to do is avoid. In my instance, I was avoiding everything. I was avoiding a marriage that was collapsing, a home life that was unraveling that I thought I was going to have. I was avoiding a business that had just come out of COVID that was beating me to death. And I did that through running ultras and excessive exercise and CrossFit competitions. All of that was my addiction to escape reality. And then I think there comes a time where you just can't ignore it anymore. And that's usually the catastrophe, the sideswipe, whatever the big event that hits you in life.
Yeah. I feel like most people don't really need another wake-up call. What they need is to have an opportunity to pause and stop ignoring the first 1,000 that are happening along the way. What do you feel were some of the wake-up calls or the challenges or the fears that you were running from before life made you stop?
Oh, wow. I think the biggest one was probably the realization that I was a good husband. I did all the things I provided. I sent her on trips. I did all the stuff that a good husband would do. And I'm an amazing father. Like I'm really a great father. I will own that. I was a terrible partner and I didn't realize that. But it was that tool that I didn't have in my tool chest to really build a partnership, and I didn't know it until, of course, it was too late. But I knew there was something that I didn't have and something that I couldn't fix. And men, unfortunately, have this whole fix it mentality. And that's probably the biggest thing that I was avoiding. I was avoiding the failure of a marriage, the failure of a family. I was avoiding the things that I couldn't fix. And I did that by burying myself in things I could control. If I wanted to go run 25 miles, I could control that. If I wanted to enter a CrossFit competition, I could control that. But those things I
Yeah.
couldn't control, that's what I avoided.
I'm wondering if any of that behavior feels like it falls into something we've been talking a lot recently over on socials, which is the identity of the nice guy that so many men can find themselves falling into that doesn't actually line up with the integrity of the person that they need to be.
But one of the things that I talk about a lot is pressure. Men, males in particular, say they feel this pressure. And I can't identify with women because I don't know, but I'm sure they feel the same. They
Yeah.
feel this pressure. And it's typically in like a traditional male female relationship. My wife is putting all this pressure on me. Well, if you step back and look, who's really putting the pressure on you? Is it her? Because I think what typically your partner wants is you. Yeah, they'll take the house, they'll take the boat, they'll take the second house, all those things. But I think what she wants is you. And in my experience, I think a lot of times we put that pressure on ourselves, thinking they want. And I don't know that that's true. So yeah, maybe there is some of that Mr. Nice Guy syndrome that falls in
Mm.
there.
Do you think that that Mr. Nice Guy tagline that's becoming very popular at the moment, do you think an element of that for so many men is really chasing what men might think that women want, the image of what they want, the providing what women want, and the performance of what women want, as opposed to sitting in the vulnerability of what's needed in this dynamic?
Absolutely. I think that. And in my case, it was the same thing. I told myself what she wanted. She wanted
Right,
the handbag, the trip, the girls' weekend. She wanted all these things.
right.
That's what I told myself. And I would send her and buy and do whatever I thought was right. But I wouldn't be vulnerable enough to sit and say, okay, what do you need from me? This is what I think you
Yeah.
want. What do you
Yeah.
need?
I love that word vulnerability because I think on the surface, it sounds like a scary word. Vulnerability. It feels like standing naked in a stadium. And I think that that's so interesting that so many people who I talk to who are at this interesting life juncture where life has changed on a dime, they're realizing how important vulnerability is. But that journey to figure out the difference between vulnerability and exposure is really, really scary. How did
Oh,
you start to figure that out?
vulnerability is exposing those little soft spots in your soul and then giving people permission to hurt them, right?
Wow.
That's vulnerability. Transparency is telling people anything they want to hear. I guess when I took the word vulnerability for more than just face value, for really what it is, it's so liberating. Like it's so liberating because we work so hard to protect those little soft spots. But the harder we work to protect them, the harder we have to work to protect them. I hope that makes sense. It's like telling a lie. Once you tell a lie, you got to keep telling lies to cover the lie up. And
Yeah.
to me, that's like when you're protecting all those soft little spots inside of your soul, you have to work to keep protecting them. And when you
Yeah.
can expose them, it's liberating.
I'm wondering when you had this cardiac event, what was happening in your life at the time? And in that season of overfunctioning and pushing yourself and achieving, how did that culminate in that event where life literally stopped for you?
Oh, wow. My life was a mess. To tell you that I was heartbroken is such an understatement. I can't even describe how sad I was. 3 boys, which you mentioned, that like I love to the end of the earth. I had a wife that I adored. I had a life that was really fantastic. And when all this unfolded, she changed a lot. Like, you're only gonna get my side here, so I'll just say that. She was distancing herself from me, just like a person that I didn't know. So I had a death. with no body to mourn. It was a person that I truly didn't know. So that was heart-wrenching. And I didn't want the dust to settle because I didn't want to see the dust. So I was just pushing and pushing and pushing. The week before my cardiac event, I ran a 50-kilometer race. It was an overnight race. Like that's what I was filling my life with. So that's where I was. It was just a constant push. I would push myself up until bedtime. I just filled every crack, every cranny, every nook, everything with something.
Walk me through the events of that day and what happened for such a huge moment in time to take place.
Sure. So Saturday, June the 12th, I was living in a studio apartment. Oh man, I moved into that studio apartment on my 22nd anniversary, by the way. I went to get my son to pick him up at the marital home to go to a CrossFit gym. He and I went together. He was 16 at the time. That Saturday, he was celebrating his 16th birthday that afternoon. So we're doing a partnered workout. And one thing about a partnered workout is you have to stay really close with your partner. You have to count their reps, they count yours. You have to know when they need a break, all that kind of stuff. So you're truly in sync. And then another piece is if you get a little bit of an edge on your partner, like if you're faster at one thing than they are, then you can really make them work harder than they want to. And I was really burying my son that day. It was like the last time ever that that'll ever happen. I was doing wall balls. It's where you take a medicine ball, throw it up at a target, you catch it and squat, and then just do it over and over. And I started to feel my heart rate in my neck. And it is so pronounced. It vibrates in my collarbones when this happens. To give you an understanding, my heart rate was about 330 beats a minute. So it just quivers. It doesn't beat. And I knew it was happening. It had happened a couple of times prior to that, but it would go away really quickly. So it happened, and I started to get a little faint. And I took a knee, and it didn't go away this time. And so I'm in the gym. I'm on the floor on my knees, and there's a guy beside me that was working out, and he put his hand on my shoulder, and he asked me if I was okay. And the second he put his hand on my shoulder, here's that vulnerability word again, right? All I could think was, man, I'm scared. I'm vulnerable. I don't know what's happening. Get your hand off me. Like, get away from me. Let me be this tough man that I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And in an instant, all I could think was, please don't let go of me. Don't let go of me. I'm scared. I'm vulnerable. I don't know what's happening. Don't let me go.
Wow.
It kept getting worse. And I knew that I had to lie down. So I started to lay down on the floor, and I laid down on my left side on the gym floor. And as I looked across the floor, I just see everything just fading out. The last thing I saw was my son's white Nike Metcon 5s, his shoes. He's walking towards me. And
Mm.
I was like, oh my God, Jeff, you've got to get up, dude. You've got to get up. And I couldn't. I could. It's not like the movies, where the good guy crawls over to the gun to get the gun and
Yeah.
shoot the bad guy and save the girl. I just couldn't move. And I was out. I woke up 8 minutes later. And in the 8 minutes, here's what happened. There was a video for a while. I've lost it or done something with it. So as I lay out, you can see people scrambling, everybody's yelling, telling the coach to turn the music off, and he comes over and they're kind of slapping me on the face, trying to get me to. And fortunately for me, there was a woman there that is the director of first aid and response for our state aquarium. So she knew what to do. So they lay me on my back, and they're slapping me around trying to get me to come to. And then they elevate my legs. Somebody's holding my legs up, and they go get ice. It's June in South Carolina in a metal building. So they go get ice from the ice machine, put ice on me. And then someone says there's no pulse. So that's when they go get the defibrillator, AED. And here's my plug for defibrillator. Always have one in a gym. So they go grab that, put that on me. And when they first put it on me, it's not like the movies. You don't just shock somebody and they come back to life. You have to have an electrical signal in your heart for it to detect so that it can shock you back into rhythm.
Right.
Well, I had no signal. So it says just do chest compressions. So now keep in mind, my 16-year-old son is standing over me watching all this. So they're just doing chest compressions, trying to get me to come to. And this is at about, it's about a minute and a half. So then it detects a rhythm. It detects some electrical charge in my heart and it says prepare for shock. So it shocks me. And the first shock, it didn't work. So it shocks you, you have the physical response, and then it gives an audible flat line. And it says no heart rhythm, continue chest compressions. So my son sees that. And of course, he loses his mind. And I think several people in the gym did. A girl started crying. And so he's lost it. And fortunately, our weightlifting coach was there. So she grabs him and starts pulling him back and is trying to get him outside. So then people stood around me so that he couldn't see. That's how he explained it. So it goes another 2 minutes while they're giving me chest compressions. It shocks me again. And the second time didn't work. So the same thing happens. And I think at that point, most people had kind of given up. And then the third shock, it shocked again after 2 minutes, it worked. And about the time I came to, the paramedics were coming in. And when I came to, literally all I could think, I looked around, I couldn't really piece it together. And I said, are we going to finish this workout? That was all I could think.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
it's that piece of it is just so bizarre. And I woke up screaming, like
Wow.
screaming. I still hear that scream and I still hear the echo in the gym. And I don't know what that was about, but some of the doctors have said when your body comes back online, then you have an electrical surge. So maybe that was it. I don't know. And then I had this horrible taste in my mouth, this horrible metallic, like 9-volt battery taste. So I thought I couldn't piece the night together. I couldn't remember
Yeah.
anything about the night before. I remembered everything that morning instantly. I remembered where I parked. I remembered going and getting my son. I remembered everything, but I couldn't piece the night together. So I thought I had gotten drunk and fainted. And I don't really drink. So that was odd. And I told the coach, I was like, man, I guess I got drunk last night and I passed out at the gym. So that was a little weird. But that taste is something that stuck with me. And then I came to, and I wasn't even going to go to the hospital. They talked me into going with the ambulance to the hospital. And that's where I spent the next few days.
That paints a picture for so many men and women at that stage of life as well, is even when life is literally stopping you, we
Yeah.
still feel like, "Gotta keep going, gotta keep going, gotta keep
Yep.
going."
Yep.
Did you have a moment after that where life did flash before your eyes and the reality of what you just experienced hit you?
Oh boy. I want to preface this by saying I am not stupid. Here's what happened next. I was at the hospital. They couldn't find anything wrong with me. They had imaged my heart. My right ventricle was dilated. And I explained that away. I was like, oh, well, I just ran a 50K a week before. So naturally it's going to be dilated. So this went on for several days. They couldn't find anything to diagnose me. Finally, they came in after 3 days. They said, well, you have arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy. And I was like, yeah, well, let me look on WebMD. And I, I didn't believe it. When I looked at the diagnosis and I looked at all the criteria, I just didn't believe them. I was like, that doesn't make sense. You're just trying to put me in a box. So I had surgery on the 15th. I got a defibrillator installed.
Just for anyone who's listening who doesn't know what that term is, what is that diagnosis? What does that mean?
ARVC is arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy. So arrhythmogenic, it's a rhythm problem and it's genetic. It's in the right ventricle. And
Yeah.
then it's a cardiomyopathy. So it is an electrical problem. To sum it up in like layman's terms, the electrical signal goes from your brain to tell your heart to beat. And then it
Yeah.
travels around the myocardium. And that's where that electrical signal is. In mine, in a healthy heart, when you exercise, that muscle fiber tears and then it's built back stronger. And with me, when that muscle fiber tears or the muscle fiber deteriorates, mine's infiltrated with fat and scar tissue. And then
Okay.
the electrical signal doesn't travel as well. So
Okay.
it's like a deterioration.
So you had a defibrillator installed,
Hmm.
and what happened
Yeah, I have
next?
a subcutaneous internal cardio defibrillator. It's like the paddles, like the thing they shock you with. That's what I
Yeah.
have, but it's a
Right.
small wire that sits above my heart, right above my breastbone. So
Okay. So walk me through this comment of I'm not stupid. What happened next?
so I had the surgery. I couldn't do anything for 30 days. Nothing strenuous. Couldn't. So on day 31, I went back to the gym to
Oh
go work
wow.
out. Yeah.
One day after the deadline. Okay.
Yep. I went with my son and, I did a workout and Lauren, I don't know what the point was. Like, I think it was prove that the doctors are wrong. I mean, prove that I don't have this disease, prove that I'm still in control, prove I'm still in charge, prove that I can
Yeah.
do hard things. I don't know. Ego. I mean, ego driven for sure.
And so what were the changes that you needed to make from then on to make sure that this didn't happen again and to take care of yourself? What did that mean?
Well, I still don't know that answer. It meant no intense exercise. Like, my exercise was supposed to be limited to yoga, golf.
Right.
That was it. That was all they would clear me to do.
Yeah.
So as I pushed, I went back and I worked out. I didn't work out as hard. And I went back on the very next day after the 30 days. I worked out for a couple of weeks. I was like, yeah, they're wrong. I don't have this. And then on July the 19th, I had an episode at the
Wow.
gym in a workout. And that's when everything changed. That's when it changed. Because what
Right.
happened the first time, I didn't really know what was happening. I just knew that I was getting faint. I knew that I had to lie down. When it happened the second time, I knew that I was dying. I had the same rhythm in my collarbones. I had the same rapid heart rate. I had that same taste in my mouth. And that
Yeah.
taste comes from when your heart stops pumping blood. The first thing is it drains out of your head.
Oh, wow.
So then when the blood comes back in your head, you can taste it actually come back into your head. That's what that taste is from. And that's when life changed. I can't even explain the fear. I became scared to drive. I became scared to go upstairs. I became scared to take a shower because I didn't want to be in a bathroom alone.
Right.
And that's what I was consumed with fear.
I think everyone understands grieving a person who they've lost. But it
Mm.
sounds like what you were experiencing was not just fear of the future, but grief around the identity of the person that you knew as well.
Oh my gosh. Yes. That was probably the most painful piece, was losing that identity. I had my identity so wrapped up in what I could provide, in performance. And in performance in two ways. In performance in the performing sense, like the performing, the working from can to can't, the workouts, the running, the races, the competitions, that's a performance, but also in the performance of the theatrical sense. Performing. My outward person showed people that I was happy, I was accomplishing, I was doing, and
Right.
those things made me a real badass or whatever I
Mhm.
thought at the time. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
performance in
Yeah.
different ways.
Yeah. What do you feel like you had to grieve the most about your old identity? Who did you have to bury?
I had to bury the controller. I needed that. I don't know if it was control. Yeah, probably control. I always wanted to control my outcome. And somewhere along the way, I told myself, because this is a constant, like, people ask me how often I think about it. I've gone through this several times where I know that I'm dying. Like, there's no way to describe it. I know that I'm dying. I know that's what's happening in that instance when this happens. I think about it constantly. And then one day, I was like, man, you can't live like this. You think about this and worry about this constantly. The heart is going to do what the heart is going to do. And that led to other areas of my life where it's already unfolded. It's already happened out there in the future. Now we just have to let it unfold. And it's going to unfold how it unfolds.
Yeah.
And then that led to one of the favorite things I tell myself now, because I'm one of those people, I'm like that high achiever. I don't say that braggadociously. I'm that driver. I'm always
Yeah.
next, next, next. Let's conquer this, conquer this, conquer this. And then I miss a lot of things because of that. And one of my favorite things to tell myself now is, Jeff, you're right where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do. It's one thing to say, but really hard to live. So I had to bury the controller, wanting the control and wanting the certainty.
Yeah. I found it really powerful what you said there around how you are the typical high achiever, but you missed things. Looking back, what were the most important things that you feel like you missed?
Moments are the most important things that I missed. The moments. Here's a great example. I'm going to do my best not to cry. Probably a year or so ago, I was cleaning out our garage, and there was a tent in there. We had this big 10-man tent, and I go out and take the boys camping. And camping, when you're the adult and it's little kids like 5, 7, and 9, is like a combat mission. You got to keep them out of the fire and keep them from touching this and doing this and going over here and don't do this. And you end up on this trip and you're like, don't do this, put this over here. And we're going camping and damn it, everybody's going to have fun. But I miss so many moments of letting one of my kids pick up a millipede or stopping on the way to the car to let them get in the creek and get wet and get in the car all wet. I missed so many moments because I was trying to get from where I was to where I thought I had to be.
Wow.
That's what I miss. Not like this big event, not like I miss like kindergarten graduations and those kind of things. Yeah, those are happy times, but somebody was always there to support our kids. But I missed a lot of moments.
I'm curious, have you come across the book, The Five Greatest Regrets of the Dying?
I have, yeah. Great book.
Yeah, it's been a game changer for my experience and how I view life. And I really like to refer back to it again and again and again to act as my compass when that high achieving part of me starts to take over and whisper little lies in my ear about what's more important and what my priorities are. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering, what does living true to yourself actually look like for you, knowing how important those little moments are now on any ordinary Tuesday?
I'm gonna answer your question, and I'm gonna ask you to hold me to task, but I'm gonna sidebar, and I'm gonna tell you about the second time that it happened. The second event I had when I was conscious, when I knew what was happening. So I knew that I was dying, and it went on for 28 seconds. Like all of my heart is all now, it's all on record. I see every event. So I was in ventricular fibrillation for 28 seconds. That's the quivering of the heart. And when I came to, I almost fainted and didn't, and I kind of came to, my son was standing behind me and he had been watching, the couple of weeks that we'd been working out. And I would always look at my watch because I always look at my heart rate. And he said, "Are you okay?" And that was another thing, another dance we did, another performance that I made. He said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm good. Are you good?" Because he was always scared watching me right after it happened. And I wasn't okay. That's when I became so scared, like I talked to you about earlier. And I pretended. Like any good leader, any good high achiever, I pretended. I pretended I was fine. I pretended I was under control. I pretended that I wasn't afraid. And I pretended like I knew what I was doing. But what I wanted, all I wanted right after that, I wanted to turn around and hug my son. The coach was right beside me when it happened, and I just wanted to touch her. I wanted to touch her arm, and I wanted someone to come put their hands on my shoulders and look at me and tell me I was gonna be okay. All I wanted was connection. That's all I wanted, and I denied myself that connection. When I thought it was the end of my life, I denied connection to perform control. So I
Wow.
hope people hear that. When
Yeah.
when you are dying, like there is this primal human need to connect with another human. I believe that's 100% true. So I hope somebody hears that.
Despite all the stories we tell ourselves, no matter how often we repeat it, our body will hold us accountable even at the end. That connection and our relationships, they matter, and being seen. And there was something really interesting that I heard you say there, was that any good leader, any high achiever. And I'm wondering if your relationship with the word leader has evolved at all through this
Oh,
experience.
oh yeah.
What
Yeah.
does that word mean for you now compared to what it used to mean?
Um, the same, but different. I do believe you lead from example. Here's a great analogy is my oldest son, he's now 21, and I have a separate apartment. We have a garage with an apartment over like a carriage house, like a separate dwelling. When he was 18, he was moving into that dwelling. And with my son, it's all three of my kids. It's like, oh my God, your room's a pigsty. Make your bed, make your bed. And so when he was going to move out, I was like, man, that place is going to be trashed all the time. So he'd been living there for about a month or so. And I don't remember what happened. He had gone to work that afternoon and I had to go out there, get something, probably a pan or dish or something. And his bed is made and like the place is tidy. And that is because he modeled my behavior. Like the first thing I do when I get out of bed is I make up my bed. Not for any reason. I want my kids to see that. I want them to see that you just get one win. So leading now to me is the same. I'm leading by example, but the example is different. The example is not do, strive, accomplish, achieve all those things and be tough and don't talk about your feelings. The example is empower others to talk about their feelings, give people a
Rad.
safe space, be okay with failing, but try again. So that has changed. I think my leadership style is still the same, is just the person that I'm hoping people see is different.
It's funny, sometimes high achievers are the ones who struggle the most to change, to evolve, to shift. And in my experience, what I've witnessed is that's because their coping behaviors are so rewarded externally. The validation and the social reward and the financial reward is so tangible that it can feel like a death itself to try and change and evolve. If you were speaking to you before these life-changing events, quite literally, how would you speak to yourself? What would you say to Jeff back then to help him to understand that opening up to vulnerability and opening up to a deeper form of connection is the greatest goal to help him feel that sense of satisfaction, even if it does, and especially if it does involve that vulnerability?
If someone had asked me, what does this matter? If someone had asked me, hey, what's this going to matter in 30 years or 50 years or 100 years? In 100 years, we'll be dust. What is it going to matter? If someone had asked me, hey, is this important in 2 years? Is this important in 4 years? Is this important when your 7-year-old is 15? That would have given me a much different perspective.
I love that. I love how powerful that is in terms of a perspective shift around really understanding what is going to be important in the end. Something
Yeah.
else interesting that you mentioned earlier was how you said that divorce wasn't grieving the loss of your wife, it was grieving a future that you had imagined. And I feel like so many people will feel seen in hearing that. How do you stop mourning a future that never happened?
After the divorce, like immediately after the divorce, I had a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. And I was talking to a really good friend of mine, and she was asking me about the divorce and she got into the finances. And I was like, Anna, I'm starting over. Like, I am starting over from zero. I gave my house away. I had to give savings away. I had to give a part of the business away. Like, I'm starting over. She said, Jeff, you're not starting over. It's part of your journey. And that was a big shift for me. So I would say, can you try to look at it from that perspective? I would love to say, oh, get excited about it, but that's nonsense. if you can look at it from that perspective, it's part of the journey. We have this future planned out. Well, if we know our future and what it's going to be, life can get pretty boring, I think. So that would be uh, an experience share. Because once I
Mm,
realized, the marriage wasn't working anyway. And the
mm,
person that I loved, that person is gone. I wanted to hang on to something that if I were at a party and I met that person now, like we would have nothing in common, nothing in common. I would say, hey, I'm going to go get some refreshments or something. And I just wouldn't come back. It's like,
yeah.
so I was hanging on to that, but then I realized, well, no, I'm hanging on to that life. And what is that life? That life wasn't that great. Yeah, I had stuff,
Mm,
but really what I was hanging on to was the future I thought I was going to have the
yeah.
next week, the next month, the next year that had certainty. I knew where I would be, where the kids would be, where she would be, where the house would be, all those things. That's what I was hanging on to. That's what I mourned.
How do you think having that moment in time where it seemed like the future as you know it, no matter what it was going to be, could possibly have been gone? How do you think that affected being able to release and to embrace a new future?
There was a time in all of this where I moved into that. I was in that studio apartment. I went from like a 3,800 square foot house to a studio apartment. My kids couldn't stay there because there was no room. I thought this was going to be short lived. I thought she would come to her senses, like any smart man does. Oh, yeah, she'll see that I'm right. And I was in this studio apartment. My kids couldn't come there. I couldn't have my dog there. And the best part of my day was the first 2 seconds when I woke up in the morning. That's because I forgot what my reality was. And then if the reality would hit me, and it was a reality that I didn't want. And that happened almost every day. I don't know for how long, but it was every day. And I realized, okay, well, I know life can be good because it's good for 2 seconds every day. And I hope I never forget that transition. But
Wow.
then it became, okay, well, life can be good because it's good for those 2 seconds. How do I find those 2 seconds in the middle of the day? How do I
Right.
find those 2 seconds and turn them into 10? And
Yeah.
then how do I turn that 10 into 20?
Yeah. I love that. And being able to expand on that as well. I'd love to dive into that lesson a little bit more by asking you some questions and giving your hidden mind an opportunity to answer with the first thought that comes to you.
Oh, fun.
And I'd love to start by giving you an opportunity to answer in just as fewer words as possible the first thoughts that come to you. And the first question I'd like to ask is, if you were to finish this sentence, how would you end it? The sentence is, life's too short to.
Suffer
What's one apology people wait too long to make?
that they didn't listen.
What's one conversation people wait too long to have?
A difficult one.
I like that. What is a dream that people keep postponing, do you think?
To give themselves permission to be themselves.
Hmm. And what do you think matters less than what people think it does?
Money.
Interesting. Okay, what do you think matters more than people think?
Connection.
Yeah. And what do you think is something that your younger self chased that your older self laughs at now?
Success.
Right. Okay. If there was one sentence that you hope your kids remember after you've gone, what would that sentence be?
I am right where I'm supposed to be.
Oh, that's beautiful. And what is one thing that you'll never postpone again?
A question.
That curiosity.
Yeah.
There's so
Yeah.
much power in the curiosity and just allowing that potential to happen.
Yeah.
I love that. That's really beautiful. I've got two last questions for you. Imagine someone is listening at the moment who keeps saying to themselves, you know what, I'm going to deal with my marriage later or my health or have those little moments with my kids tomorrow, or I'll finally become who I want to be once work settles down next year or when I retire or whatever it is. What would be your message to them?
My message to them would be the cliche. Life is short, right? People say it all the time. Lauren, for me, there was a point in all this where my life got really long, almost too long. So I don't know if life is short. Everyone's life is different, but I will say that we all know this, but we don't really know it. Death is real. It's real. It doesn't wait. It doesn't wait till the time is okay. It doesn't sit around and hope that you invite it. It doesn't call ahead and say that it's coming. It doesn't wait for it to be convenient. It doesn't wait for school to be out. It doesn't wait for the new job. Death is real.
Hmm.
And it's very final.
Mm.
So I would say, do the damn thing. Do the thing.
Do the damn thing. I love that. I need that as a bumper sticker. My one final question that I'd love to ask you is that often what we like to do on the Connection podcast is ask you the question without knowing who our next guest is going to be. What question would you ask the next guest?
Oh, man. When was the last time that you had a genuine connection with a stranger and made their day better? When you asked me what I would not postpone, and I said question, and then you summed it up perfectly. You said, yeah, that curiosity. Just being curious, you can make someone's day so much better. I was in, and that started a thing for me. I was in the Sky Club a couple of years ago, and there was a woman there. She worked there. She was redoing the bar. And I asked her how her day was going. She said, oh, it's fine. I was like, oh, just fine? She said, yeah. I said, well, all right, scale 1 to 10. What's your day like? She said, it's a 2. I said, a 2? Oh my gosh. What happened? She said, well, I got in a fight with my daughter before she went to school this morning. And this whole thing blew up. I said, okay, what time do you get off? She said, well, I'm going to get off at 3. I said, okay, you get off at 3. Will your daughter be home? She said, yeah, she'll be home. I said, okay, well, what do you think it would be like if you go home and you take her a nothing bundt cake, or you go get a crumble cookie and you take it home and you say, hey, I don't know who was right or who was wrong, but I thought about you all day and here's this cookie. She said, you know what? She would love that. It's like, all right. So scale of 1 to 10, what's your day going to be like once you do that for your daughter? She said, oh, right now it's a 7 and it's going to be a 10. It didn't cost me anything. I just had to get curious.
Hmm.
And I could have said, what's it going to be like when you get home and you hug her? What's it going to be like? It could have been anything. But
Yeah.
that curiosity, I think some people, no one ever really is curious about them.
I love that. I love that mentality that life really opens up for you when you treat everyone as a best friend that you just haven't met yet.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
people respond in
Um,
kind. They do. They really
oh,
do.
for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
We often look for the opposite. I think it was
Yeah.
Carnegie. There's a quote from him. He had people working for him, like, about 100 years ago, that were millionaires, which was unheard of at the time. And this reporter asked me, so how do you do that? How do you have these people that work for you? He said, it's like mining. You got to move a lot of dirt to get the gold. But often when we're dealing with people, we look for the dirt to
Yeah.
find the gold. And I think we
Yeah.
do that as humans. We compare when we want to see the
Mhm.
bad things in people, then we can compare and say, oh, well, yeah, I really have all my stuff together because look at this person. Look
Mhm.
for the gold. So to your point, that's treat them like your best friend.
I love that. And I haven't been let down by that analogy yet. I think when we change our perception around what happens when we meet people with curiosity, the world opens up. And if you're not met with curiosity and kindness in kind, perhaps that wouldn't have happened anyway. And you've lost nothing by showing up as your most connected, your most
Yeah.
curious, your most authentic, and inviting self. So I really love that analogy about looking for the gold because
Yeah.
you get gold in return.
Yeah. And I would venture to say if you lead with that and you're not met with kindness and curiosity in return, I would all but bet everything I have on it that that person behaves differently with the next person they meet, that you make a
Absolutely.
difference. You
Yeah,
make a
it's all about
difference.
that seed, isn't it? Planting that mustard
Yeah.
seed and just allowing that to grow because
Yeah.
all we're responsible for is the ripples that we make and let the ripples unfurl as they need to. But hey, what a fun ripple it is to be a part of from one that starts with that kindness and that curiosity and that openness without fear that that's going to cost you anything at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, around that last question that you've left for our next guest, I would also like to ask you, when was the last time that you had a beautiful connection with a stranger and made their day better?
Oh, wow. It was at it was actually at Crumble Cookie. There was a woman that was in there buying cookies, and she had the Meta glasses on. So I asked her about her glasses. "Do you like them?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna get another pair. I'm getting another pair for my birthday." I was like, "Oh, awesome. When's your birthday?" She said, "It's today." It's like, "Wait a second, it's today and you're in here buying yourself Crumble cookies?" She's like, "Yeah, it's just me." It's like, "Oh, I have to buy your cookies now. Like, I have to buy your cookies." So I bought her cookies for her. She's like, "You know what? You made my day." But it was
Um,
just the curiosity. Had I not asked her, and I was genuinely curious, "Do you like these? Tell me about them." Had I not asked, had I sat there on my question, then I would have known.
I love that. That speaks so powerfully into what you just shared. And I just know that everyone who's listened to this episode today is going to want to continue the conversation. So I would love to hear from you. Where can any of the listeners of the Connection podcast stay in touch with you, follow along more, and learn more about your world?
Yeah, all can, no can't. I have a podcast with that name, also jeffluther.com. You can find me there. You can see like what I almost do as far as workouts, JD Luther 2.0 and all can, no can't on Instagram.
I'll be following along for that for sure. I'm on my own fitness journey and just really trying to find that balance between exercise, nutrition, and health that is incredibly nourishing and also maintains that line between what truly is healing versus either obsessive one way or the other. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited to continue that conversation. I think that's a to be continued next line for the Connection podcast together with Jeff again in future. So if you've really enjoyed this episode, I'd love to hear what resonated for you most in the comments. And if this brought up anything for you and you want to take this conversation further, please feel free to come and join me over on Instagram at Lauren_Dry, as well as Jeff over on any of the socials at all can, no can't. Thank you so much for being here again, Jeff. This has been a really powerful conversation, and I've taken so much away from it that I can't wait to even just share with my husband and my kids and to hold them all a little bit tighter and realize that every single moment is a gift and life doesn't wait. Life will take us by surprise and force us to shift on some random Tuesday at 4 p.m. So I'm going to take each moment from now and just soak that up and be grateful for every moment of connection, especially that I do have. So thank you for coming and sharing that with me and everyone here on the Connection podcast.
This was great. Thank you. You made it so easy.
Thanks, mate. Can't wait to chat again.